You come into the bathroom half awake, turn on the light, and the mirror looks ordinary for about 3 seconds. Then the shower runs, the room fills with warmth, and suddenly the mirror goes blind. Your hair misbehaves, your shirt sticks in the wrong places, your towel somehow makes you colder before it makes you warmer, and if you try to carry a cup of coffee while doing all this, the coffee seems to have a personal grudge against your floor. Now that's a marvelous way to begin the day. What I like about it is that none of these little annoyances are little at all. They're the world showing its machinery. And the funny thing is, the machinery is not hidden in some giant laboratory. It's right there in your bathroom, in your kitchen, in the way your sleeve clings to your arm. The first secret is the mirror. People say the mirror steams up, but that's already a little misleading. Steam, properly speaking, is water as a gas, and real water vapor is invisible. If you could see the vapor itself, the whole room would look like milk. What you're actually seeing on the mirror is liquid water, tiny droplets that formed because the mirror stayed cooler than the air around it. That's the trick. Not all warmth is equal, and not all parts of a room keep up with one another. The air gets warm and moist very fast in a shower. The mirror is like a stubborn old metal cash box left in the shade. It doesn't change its mind quickly. So the water molecules in the warm air come smashing into that cool surface, lose a bit of energy, and suddenly they can't remain free in the air anymore. They gather together into droplets, and those droplets ruin the mirror not because water is white, but because the surface becomes rough on a tiny scale. Light likes a smooth mirror. A smooth mirror sends each ray away in a precise direction. But cover it with little beads of water and the light scatters all over the place. The face is still there. The mirror hasn't forgotten you. The information has just been scrambled. Here's a thought experiment. Imagine shrinking yourself until a droplet on the mirror is the size of a hill. Now light is not politely bouncing off a flat wall anymore. It's ricocheting from a whole field of curved little domes. Of course, you can't see yourself clearly. It's like trying to recognize a tune after someone has taken the piano apart and scattered the keys across the room. That's secret number 1. The bathroom mirror is teaching you about temperature, phase change, and the way surfaces control what matter decides to do. Now hold that idea in your head, because the second secret seems to say the opposite. You step out of the shower, and the room is warm. You're wet. You take the towel, and for a moment, just a moment, you can feel colder. That seems backwards. Drying off ought to warm you up immediately, right? But what actually matters is not whether there is water on you. What matters is where the energy is going. When water evaporates from your skin, it steals energy. Not emotionally, physically. The fastest moving water molecules escape first, and the ones that escape carry energy away. That energy comes from your skin. So evaporation cools you. This is one of those lovely, sneaky facts in physics. Sometimes losing matter matters less than losing the wrong molecules. A towel helps because it removes the water before that evaporation can continue. But while you're in the middle of drying, there's a competition going on. Some water is being absorbed into the towel, some is still evaporating, air is moving across your skin, and all of it is involved in shuffling energy around. The towel itself is not warmth in the magical sense. It's more like a very eager moving company. It shows up and says, "Fine, I'll take this water somewhere else." And the texture matters. A smooth sheet doesn't do the job nearly as well as a towel with loops and fibers because the towel is built like a little forest. Enormous surface area. Countless pathways for water to crawl into. The water doesn't disappear, it migrates. Mental reset. Nothing mystical is happening. You are just lending energy to escaping molecules. If you want a good thought experiment, imagine 2 mornings. In one, you step out of the shower into still air. In the other, a fan is blowing across you. Same body, same water, same room temperature, yet the second morning feels much colder. Why? Because the fan carries away the humid air hugging your skin and replaces it with drier air, which allows more evaporation. The air doesn't have to be cold to make you cold. It only has to help the water leave. That's a wonderfully counterintuitive thing. A warm breeze can cool you if it encourages evaporation. So when you say, the air felt chilly, part of what you really mean is, the physics found an efficient way to collect my heat. Now the third secret comes when you pull on a shirt or run a comb through your hair and suddenly everything begins to cling, crackle, or lift in ridiculous directions. Static electricity is one of the best examples of how nature can look like mischief when it's really bookkeeping. You rub one material against another, say a comb through dry hair, or a sweater over your skin, and some electrons are transferred more easily one way than the other. One surface ends up with a little extra negative charge, the other with a little deficit. Usually matter is nearly neutral, balanced very neatly, but friction gives the balance sheet a tiny error, and even a tiny electrical imbalance can produce a surprisingly noticeable effect. That part shocks people, sometimes literally. A tiny charge? Why does it matter so much? Because electric forces are tremendously strong. Gravity has the reputation because it holds the planets and stars together, but between little charged pieces of matter, electricity is the bully in the schoolyard. Gravity is always there, quiet and patient. Electricity is the fellow who notices a mismatch instantly and starts rearranging the room. And here's the subtle part. Your shirt does not have to carry the opposite charge everywhere in order to be attracted. Even a neutral object can be pulled by a charged one because the charges inside the neutral object shift slightly. One side becomes a little more positive, the other a little more negative. The object polarizes. So the attraction can happen without some grand lightning bolt drama. It's like bringing a magnet near a box full of tiny compass needles. They all swivel a bit. Matter is constantly negotiating. I've always loved this because it reminds me how badly our intuition handles the invisible. If you saw a shirt cling to an arm because little hooks grabbed onto it, you'd say, naturally. But when no hooks are visible, you think it's mysterious. The mystery isn't in the event. It's in our scale. We are too big. And dry air makes the whole business worse, or better, if you enjoy the spectacle, because moisture in the air helps leak charge away. In humid air, charges find escape routes more easily. In dry air, they hang around longer, like guests who miss the hint that the party is over. Now the fourth secret waits for you in the kitchen, or maybe in the hallway when you're already late, the coffee cup. You pick it up, start walking, and somehow the liquid knows exactly when to leap over the rim. Why is carrying coffee so absurdly difficult? After all, it's only sitting in a cup. Well, no. It's not sitting. It's sloshing. A liquid doesn't behave like a solid because it can flow and reshape itself. When you accelerate the cup forward, the coffee doesn't instantly agree to go with you. Inertia, the reluctance of matter to change its motion, means the liquid lags, the surface tilts, then gravity pulls it back, and it overshoots. That's already enough to make a wave. But walking adds repeated little pushes, and if the timing of your steps happens to match the natural sloshing rhythm of the coffee, you feed the wave at exactly the wrong moments. That's resonance. A child on a swing knows this without using the word. Push at the right time, and small pushes become a large motion. Push at the wrong time, and you just look foolish. Coffee is the same, except less forgiving. Try this thought experiment. Imagine the cup is enormous, big enough to stand inside like a tiny swimming pool. If you shove the cup to the right, the liquid surface tilts to the left. Then it comes back. If you keep jiggling the pool at the same rhythm the water naturally prefers, the waves get larger. The coffee isn't rebelling. It's remembering. And here's a practical little jewel. Sometimes walking more smoothly helps less than changing the rhythm. People think, be careful, go slower. But often the real trick is to avoid matching the cup's natural slosh timing. Physics is full of situations where gentleness is not the issue, timing is. Mental reset. The coffee is not trying to escape. You are accidentally coaching it. Now I want to connect all four of these morning nuisances, because they're really one story. The mirror fogs because molecules change their behavior when the local conditions change. Your skin cools because fast molecules escape and take energy with them. Your clothes cling because tiny imbalances in charge rearrange matter at a distance. Your coffee spills because matter resists changes in motion and responds to rhythm. Different phenomena, same universe. Always the same deep game: what can move, what resists moving, what energy is available, what pattern gets amplified. When I was learning physics, the thing that thrilled me was not collecting laws like stamps. It was seeing that the world has a kind of economy to it. It doesn't invent a special rule for bathrooms and another one for kitchens and another one for sidewalks. The same few ideas keep reappearing, dressed in different clothes. Temperature, energy, force, motion, stability, disturbance. You don't memorize them so much as become friends with them, and once you do, the morning stops being routine. The mirror becomes a little weather system on a sheet of glass. The towel becomes an energy machine. Your shirt becomes an electrical experiment. The coffee becomes a lesson in waves and timing before you've even had a sip. That, to me, is the real pleasure of physics. It doesn't take the magic out of ordinary life. It puts the magic back in, but this time the magic has structure. You can follow it. You can test it. You can argue with it. And the world answers. So tomorrow morning, when the mirror clouds up and the towel chills you and your sleeve sticks and the coffee makes one dangerous little ripple, maybe don't rush past it. Maybe pause for half a second and notice that the universe has already started talking to you before breakfast. And the odd thing is, it's been saying the same beautiful things all along. You just didn't know your bathroom was a physics laboratory.